The 2025 year in sumo has come to a close, answering a ton of questions in the process. Was Onosato ready to truly take over as the Dai Yokozuna of this decade? Will Hoshoryu finally get that first yusho as a Yokozuna? Will Aonishki prove that he's ready to be the young Ozeki that we all thought he could be? And will Sumo Jason finally learn to love the Henka?
Have you lost your mind? Of course not.
Well, that answers one question. We'll answer the rest here on the New to Sumo
Let's
podcast.
start the show. New to sumo, here we go.
Thank you, everybody, for liking and subscribing all of our content. Welcome to the New to Sumo podcast, where today our special guest is none other than Jason Harris, who you all know as Sumo Jason.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us, Jason. How did you enjoy that Basho? Just a scale of, 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 100. How
Yeah,
much did you like that one?
I think September was good, but I think this is the best bot show of the year. And that's coming in a year where we had some really good sumo. Great way to end the year. And if you're an Aonishki fan, as I am, you couldn't ask for a better result. Obviously, I know we're going to talk spoilers, so I'm not worried about saying that out loud. But yeah, I just thought in Juryo as well. We had a lot of fun stuff going on. I don't know how much we'll get into Juryo, but it was just a really good bot show overall and probably easily an 18 out of 20.
18 out of 20, solid. God, if I wasn't a math major, but I think that's around 90%. So
Yeah.
that must have been one of the most dramatic day 15s like in recent memory. Like we've obviously had days where, plenty of days where, there was like a big tie and whatnot leading up to, the end of it. But it almost felt like there was nervousness because there was that fear that it would end so anticlimactically. Like,
Mm-mm.
for those who may not have paid too close attention, going into day 15, Aonishki was one win off the pace. It was a tie between Onosato and Hoshoryu, but seemingly out of nowhere, but those who had sort of paid attention noticed, Onosato suddenly pulled out on day 15, which led to an automatic, win award to Hoshoryu. And, if Aonishki, who was one win off, had lost to Kotozakura, I'm sorry, he was tied with them. If he had lost to Kotozakura on that day, then Hoshoryu would have won the Yusho without even fighting on that day, which would
That's
have felt horribly anticlimactic. So, how did, this goes out to both of you. How did you feel about, the drama heading into day 15?
Yeah, I don't know when you guys found out about it. So obviously, I'm in Japan. So in the morning, I woke up and I knew I sat down to breakfast and I take a little piece of paper and I map out, okay, what matches am I going to put up on the channel today? And I look at Juryo, and I didn't even think to check the absent Rikshi page on the website to see, if anybody pulled out on the final day. It didn't even occur to me. So it's literally, I was listening to the play-by-play for the Juryo, and Fuji Ryoga's match was coming up where he was going to fight to win the championship in the second tier division. And I heard the commentators say, Onosato, and, in Japanese, he was saying how he was injured. And I was just like, oh man, wait, did he just say Onosato like was not going to fight today? No. And then I, go over to the page and sure enough, he's on the absent Rikshi page. So I was just stunned at that moment, realizing all the permutations that you just talked about of the fact that now Hoshoryu was going to get a Fusensho win and a walkover win, and right there you see it, and potentially the title without even having to fight, depending on how Aonishki did against the Ozeki. So yeah, I was flabbergasted and like you guys hoping that wouldn't be the case, that Aonishki would win to force the playoffs, so Hoshoryu would at least have to earn the yusho and not just get it on a platter.
Yeah, and I felt similarly. We've often been accused of, preferring Onosato over Hoshoryu or just simply disliking Hoshoryu outright.
Mm,
And this wasn't a case of that. I would have been really happy to see either of them hoist the cup at the end, but I didn't
yeah.
want to see Hoshoryu winning it that way. So that was where I was coming from. And I mean, to see Onishiki win it and really secure that Ozeki promotion is extra special.
And
And I
I
mean,
think, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to move it on. Like I think that it's worth, discussing that Ozeki promotion, which has now been all but confirmed. We are kind of going to wait until midweek to see what the final announcement is. But
Yeah.
from what I've seen on social media, like the meeting that is supposed to be taking place to discuss it is pretty much a formality that nobody who has ever gone into that meeting on the grounds of Ozeki promotion discussion has ever left without being named in Ozeki. So,
Right.
I think we are, maybe 72 hours away from welcoming our first ever Ukrainian Ozeki, which is quite exciting.
All right, here's your quiz. You ready?
I'm ready for the quiz. Absolutely.
Okay. So 7 countries other than Japan have won a yusho. Can you
Mhm.
name all 7?
Well, point of inquiry. Does Musashi Maru coming from the American Samoa, does that count as the United
Yes,
States?
that counts
Okay.
as the United States.
So the United States,
Yes.
Estonia,
Mm,
uh, Mongolia,
of course.
uh, Georgia.
Yes.
Let's see, Ukraine now.
Yes.
Hmm. I'm missing two. Oh, thank you for that map of the world. I needed that one. Bulgaria?
Bulgaria. Yep.
Okay.
Koto.
Okay, Kota Oshu is there. So that's six. I'm missing one. Gosh.
Are we
Uh,
missing one? Okay, so Estonia, Ukraine, Bulgaria, Georgia, Mongolia, Japan, United States. That's
okay, I'm
7.
sorry. I
Oh,
thought you said seven others.
Oh, sorry. No, I meant
Yeah.
7. Go, man.
well done.
Okay. All right, got it. I do think I deserve marks off for guessing Belarus before Bulgaria, but
I'll be sure to deduct them from your score.
all
So
right.
yeah, it's exciting. I was pontificating that I wonder how much coverage in Ukraine Aonishki is
Hmm.
getting for this achievement. Is he on the front page of their newspaper this morning, etc.? I hope he is. I hope he gets uh, platitudes and and raised up for his achievements, not only in this one instance, but his whole career up till now has just been an amazing run.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's funny, like we always find him in this conversation near the end of it. I mean, that record is just it borders on the obscene. Like I should have written out the list of things that he has accomplished with his U show, but here are just a few of them. The fastest ever promotion to Ozeki from the bottom of the Bansuke and Sumo history,
Mm.
the fastest ever Yusho win from the bottom of the Bansuke and Sumo history. He is the youngest Yusho winner since some guy named Hakuho won his first about 20 something years ago, and I think it
Yeah.
also makes him like the third youngest Yusho ever after him and Takanohana. So
Mm.
sensational company
Oh
to
yeah.
be in. And once again, this is a little secret stat that not everybody can understand what I say when I explain it, but this is his 14th or however many tournaments it's been where he has finished at least 5 wins above a 500 record.
Mm.
He has never been less than 5 wins above 500 since
That's
starting his
it's
career.
insane.
Which, I mean, basically boils down to he's always had at least 6 wins in the bottom 4 divisions and at least 10 wins in the top 2 divisions. That's basically
Exactly.
what that, yeah,
Yeah, and
which is incredible.
Yeah.
it's not even Onosato can say that, and he's the guy that we are literally anticipating him being, the Dai Yokozuna of the 2020s, the great Yokozuna of this
Right.
decade by the time that it's over. So for him to already be achieving these milestones It feels like the sky is the limit. I mean, Jason, you've obviously done, you've seen enough sumo, you've researched enough sumo. Is there anybody that Onishiki really compares to other than, maybe Onosato, who kind of reached where he is through different means?
I mean, he's certainly, yeah. I mean, he's come to it later. We were discussing in the chat room in my Patreon the other day the fact that Onosato, how many yusho will he get in his career? And people were postulating, can he get, 30 or 40 to be on that kind of very top tier? And, obviously 10 is, easily going to be achievable for him. But he started a little later. He went to university and he didn't get promoted until I think he was 24. And, as you just said, Hoshoryu and Asashoryu, were winning some of their first big yusho when they were 20, 21, 22. And so, he does have a few years already on Onosato as far as winning championships. And the part of the question now is, do we think he's going to become a Yokozuna in 2026? Is he going to be able to fend off Hoshoryu and Onosato twice in a row and win back-to-back Yusho in the next calendar year? I don't think he will. I think there's a period of adjustment when you become a new Ozeki, and he's got to have a bad tournament, And for
Eventually.
him, that might mean a 9-6 or something. Who knows what that means? But it's got to happen. Whether it's fatigue or injury or just bad mojo. Um, so I'm rooting for him. It's hard for me to compare him to other people. Um, and I love that chart you were showing before on Sumo DB where he actually grew 2 inches or 2 centimeters. So yeah, that's
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 just
not
a
something
mark
you
of his
usually do when
skill.
you're.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a superhero trait there. No, but yeah, I just he is the numbers are fairly unique and remarkable as far as you guys are saying. Like he's just always well above Kachikoshi and no losing record ever, and the speed at which he's come up through the ranks. There's been guys, I think if you pulled up Hakuoho's list, he came up very fast and everybody was hot on him for a hot minute. Um, and
But then the injury, then that
but
injury, and he
yeah,
hasn't been the same.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
And every when he was that Maegashira 17 after he'd only been in sumo for, I don't know, what, 3 basho or something, was pretty crazy. And then, of course, yeah, the injury. But so let's knock wood and hope that doesn't happen. And we talked about Onosato this basho. Um, a lot of people thought on day 14 when he was sitting ringside and he was, grimacing that it was frustration for losing. And I was like, no, he looks hurt. He looks like maybe he hurt something. And it turns out he did the day before when he fought Kotozakura. Sorry, when he fought Aonishki, and the Kotozakura loss was more just a result of that injury. And I'm glad he pulled out because, his coach, as I'm sure you guys know, is Kiseno Sato, the former Yokozuna who famously injured himself very badly, winning his first Yusho as a Yokozuna and then never won another one because the injury was so bad he never was able to really recover in any meaningful way. And I'm assuming some of that wisdom came down, and he's like, look, if you're hurt, if you've dislocated your shoulder, the fans want you to show up. Everybody wants to see that match against Hoshoryu, but you've got your Kachikoshi, you've done your part. Just sit down, let's take care of that and not have it be something worse than it might be. So I'm not a medical person. I often hear about injuries when doing my channel, and you guys do too. I have no idea how bad his injury is, but I'm glad he sat out, and I hope he does what he has to do so he can come back in January.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that would be crucial. I mean, I honestly, from a quick Google search on, dislocated shoulders, assuming that's what it is, just based on
Huh.
some buzz around it, typically in sports, that's a couple weeks to a couple months. So,
Okay.
erring on the side of caution, he might miss January, but the hope would be that if that's all it is, maybe he could be back for March. If
Sure.
he's really rushing, then it's possible he competes in January, but it may be inadvisable. And again, that's without any medical
Yeah, they have a
expertise.
big regional tour in the guys go to all different places in Japan in December. So he'll probably have to sit out most of that, which will be disappointing for fans, of course. But I was happy in the stands. I don't know what feed you guys watch on when you watch if you stay up late and watch the live NHK World 1 hour that they bequeath the crumbs they give to the fans. But the stadium really was behind Aonishki. They really did embrace him. A lot of people stayed to hear him speak at the end. Um, and I think despite, obviously being a foreign-born Rikishi, people respect, like you said, they respect the numbers. They respect his commitment to coming here, learning Japanese, trying to, be a dignified representative of the sport, and he is 100% sumo. You can just tell when you hear him speak that he has his eye on the big prize, and it's really great to see. And but he doesn't win the prize for best interview. I don't know if you watched the entire day yesterday, but
I did watch the interview. Like it sounded to me like people were behind him during that interview, but maybe that's just me not being able to understand, understand Japanese well.
yeah, and Ichi Yamamoto gave an interview because he got the Kanto show yesterday,
Mhm.
and he gives the best interview in sumo. So he is just such a jolly fellow, and I just love him to pieces. He's just so happy to be in sumo and doing well, and he's never even been a komusubi. And I really hope he's going to move up the Banzuke a little bit because of his 11-4. And yeah, he if you can ever see him be interviewed after he does something good, it's always delightful.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe he will be, the next Ura.
Yeah, yeah,
And sorry, that's where we whenever we say aura in a very dramatic way, that is usually us when we do a little jingle that has aura and doing a somersault on it. So that's what that was for.
He's the only wrestler who has their own jingle on our channel. So we
Oh
always have
yeah.
to
well,
use that as often as we can.
he deserves it
Yeah,
because he did a somersault yesterday,
Yeah.
that's right.
so
And he got his Kachikoshi as well. That was, I think, the
he
first
did.
time he's gotten a Kachikoshi in like the Joy area all year. Yeah, the last time he did was from Maegashira 5 back in 2024.
Yeah,
So
and he's another guy that, it's like his popularity is far outstrips his uh
ability.
accomplishments, if we want to go there.
Yeah.
And he has been a Komusubi, but it's been a while. two
I th
years, I think.
I've always felt that, like we like to take pot shots at Ura out of love, truly, because he often has, poor records or at the very least Makikoshi.
Yeah,
But I think one thing we've always, truly meant is just how impressive it is what he's able to do with his frame, the way he's able to manipulate the bodies of his opponents despite his small size, and with
yeah,
his unique approach that he can have his own brand of sumo. I mean, how hard is it to have your own distinctive brand of sumo? Usually only the greats are able to do that. And
yeah,
so that's something that we truly love about Ura as much as we like to make our little jabs here and there. It's
yeah.
it's so and it's just so nice to see him performing well, and to have two straight Kachikoshi is
And in
tremendous.
that 170 centimeters, height class, if you want to call it that, the guys that are around Ura's 175, you've got uh, Fujinokawa, you've got Asakoru, you've got Tobizaru, you've got Ura, you've got Midori Fuji. All of those guys, to make up for being a little shorter, are just fantastic to watch. They
Yeah.
all are so spirited and bring so much to their matches most of the time that yeah, it's just a joy to see a lot of them wrestle, and it's kind of their own little niche group of guys under 180 centimeters. And for people in America, as I'm sure your podcast appeals to many American fans, 180 centimeters, about 5'11", I think. Um, and so, you know, guys that are under 6 foot for sure, and doing their best to, compensate for that with just, very spirited sumo, for the most part. What do you think about somebody like Asanoyama, who's probably going to come back to the top division?
Oh, we
Um,
did watch a little bit of Asanoyama, back when he was still up in the top division before he had
Mm,
that big injury. I
right.
mean, the story of Asanoyama will, unfortunately always be the guy who was a Ozeki who, got suspended at the wrong time in his career and was simply never able to get back to being a Yokozuna contender again.
Yeah.
And then once he finally got back up to the top division from that suspension, he just kept getting injured. So,
Yeah.
it's one of many, sad stories of guys who probably could have been all-time greats, but have
Oh,
unfortunately
he
been cut short.
undoubtedly would have been a Yokozuna if he hadn't been suspended in the COVID era.
Yeah.
He just has the body for it. He's a good technical fighter, and it's a real shame, I think, what happened to him. And I'm glad he's fighting back. And he's a lot older now, though. He's got to be what, 32 or so, maybe now.
Yeah.
And but it's going to be a good story to follow as he comes back into the top division. Can he dominate again? As some of the guys have tried to do. Um, I mean,
He'll certainly be a sleeper in January
yeah,
because
absolutely.
I mean, from the bot, like we've seen, like Terano Fuji won his started his legit comeback to Yokozuna by
Right.
winning a Basho at the bottom of the Bansuke. So it's entirely possible that if he's getting, and of course with Koto Shoho winning back in July, like it's
Mhm.
clear that the JSA will not necessarily give you like the toughest possible schedule, even if you're performing well. So,
Right.
if he manages to start like 10-0 or 11-0 in January, there's a good chance we could be looking at an Asanoyama Yusho, or at least him going up against one of our upper Sanyaku at the very end with all the marbles on the line. So
And see, he's had the opposite problem about Nishiki, and he's shrunk. He's lost a centimeter.
oh wow, yeah.
that would hurt your performance.
You know what
That's
it is?
hey,
They must have had to quite literally cut the knees out from under him in order to make him heal. But I did want to touch on something as far as Onishiki goes. When you mentioned the crowd being behind him and not Hoshoryu.
ugh,
One thing that I've loved about Onishiki is how well coached he very clearly is. Like,
mm,
even Hoshoryu, who we think of as a supremely technical wrestler, can't quite do the litany of different moves that Onishiki can. And that's
right,
because Onishiki's master is Aonishki, who was famously one of the most technical fighters for over 20 years.
yeah,
Aonishki, a guy who was extremely popular. I think he was on the tail end of his career right as you were starting to watch. And
yeah.
part of me wonders, is maybe, the popularity of Aonishki rubbing off on Aonishki, the way that Aonishki carries himself, is that do people maybe see Aonishki's former master in him and
Oh,
maybe see Hoshoryu's uncle more so in him, who,
mm,
Asashoryu, despite his dominance, Asashoryu was maybe not beloved
yeah,
by sumo fans in the same way. And so maybe it's sort of and maybe it's sort of like a next generation kind of thing where like, we're sort of moving our fandom onto, this next generation of guys where like, if Kisen Osato, Asa Shoryu, and Aonishki had all been like the three best, like, these are like their proteges and stuff. Maybe these are like, they're a extension of fandom that they once had. I'm sorry if I'm sorry for everyone listening if that sounded very silly, but
No, no,
you understand?
I completely see where you're coming with that. And I think as much as this man on screen now, Hoshoryu, has tried to stamp his own, identity on his uh, sumo career, he can't escape the name recognition of his uncle. And it's kind of like Oho. Every single time he gets up to doing anything, they have to bring up his grandfather. And uh, you know, okay, you can't avoid it in a way. And I think, saying that his Oyakata has had a big effect on Aonishki is very wise. I think that's an interesting take, and the fact that one stat you showed for Aonishki, where only 25% of his winning technique is yorikiri. I mean, that's unheard of. And the fact that, 43% there is other is insane. And Uchimuso, we got to see that in fun display this tournament. I think he used it like twice in November here. And yeah, I just want you guys to think though. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and think, okay, there's a Yokozuna, and he's going to start in January, and he's going to win the January tournament. And now he's going to win the March tournament. And then somehow he wins in May and in July and in September, and it comes to November, and he does something that nobody has ever done in sumo. Even Hakuho hasn't done it, and that's win all six yusho in a calendar year, and that's Asashoryu. And that's when I was very, very first watching sumo, and so I thought, wow, well, this is what sumo's like. You have one guy and he dominates everything, and he's Michael Jordan, and Tiger Woods rolled into one, and wow. And then of course, Hakuho came along. But I loved Asashoryu when I was starting out. He was so just he seemed to buck the system. He was very aggressive, and he was visibly non-Japanese in his approach. And I appreciated that. And he's kind of an odd guy nowadays if you like follow his Twitter and stuff like that, but he absolutely deserves the title of a great Yokozuna. And I don't know that he really has a great relationship with his nephew, but he certainly, the shadow looms large, but it should, because he was amazing when he was in the aughts, and he left under a cloud of not goodness. So he'll never be respected in Japan as maybe he should be, just based on his sporting. But yeah, Hoshoryu, what do you guys think? Is this so psychologically damaging now that he has lost one yusho in a playoff, another yusho in a playoff, but losing twice to the same guy within 2 days? How does he bounce back from that and come back in January, in your opinion?
I feel that Hoshoryu just has the right mentality. I mean, I've never really doubted that Hoshoryu can handle the mental side of sumo. I think sometimes he fails to deliver on, in the moments, maybe in a playoff, but I've never gotten the sense that he's in his own head and that's the reason he's losing matches. I mean,
Hmm.
he's managed playoff wins as well. So I feel like it's just a matter of things kind of falling into place for him. I think that he's fortunate in a way to be opposite Onosato because I think they challenge each other tremendously, and he learns a lot, I think, from competing with Onosato now every tournament. And he's also got a great head-to-head record against Onosato. As far as the big moments go, thankfully he's young enough that he'll have plenty more of them. And I don't think the failures of the last couple tournaments where he was close and didn't get the yusho win will make it harder in the future. I actually think they mean he's that much closer because his average wins in the last several tournaments that he's finished have been the very best in the sport, other than only Onosato who competes with it. So he's really getting better and better as a wrestler. He's had tougher
Right.
competition than ever, and he's just having more and more wins. I think, yeah, I guess for me, I just sort of pivot my perception of him as rather than it's getting harder for him and he's failing in these moments, I actually think he's getting that much closer to consistent Yusho wins. But
Okay. So you think it'll galvanize him to try harder and etc.
or at least to
Come
take the
back stronger.
opportunity. Yeah, at least to take the opportunities because the reality is as much as we loved the idea of Onosato winning 30, 40 Yusho, injuries are a real thing that every single
Right.
sumo wrestler deals with, and this is really the first time now we're seeing it with Onosato, and hopefully it doesn't last a while, but when it inevitably happens, if Hoshoryu's healthy, he's going to be the favorite, and that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel sort of this like I honestly think that Hoshoryu is already there. Like the last five tournaments that he has played, that he has fought to completion, have all been the top two match totals of like those have all been Yokozuna performances. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
his 13 wins, a career high last November, followed
Mhm.
by his Yusho playoff win, over Oho and Kinbozan in January.
Right.
Then you skip to May, where he narrowly well, I guess he doesn't lose on the he isn't in contention because Onosato's already won it, but
Right.
he beats the previously unbeaten future Yokozuna in that match.
Right.
Then he forces the playoff with Onosato. And then like I think most people believe based on the trend that if Onosato hadn't fought, yesterday and had tried to fight through the injury, I think it's safe to say he would have beaten Onosato. Like,
Yeah.
I don't feel
Yeah.
it's outrageous to suggest that. Like, this is a guy that's already there. The only problem that he's having is that he's just getting a tad unlucky.
Yeah.
But this isn't a Takayasu situation where he simply can never do it. This this isn't a Kiseno Sato situation where it's taking him, you know, literally 12 times to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
he finally breaks through. And it's not a Futahaguro situation where he has simply never won a Yusho. This guy has won two Yusho. He
Mhm.
has been having, by every agreed on definition, Yokozuna worthy performances.
Yeah.
Like uh, Hoshoryu is a worthy Yokozuna.
I agree.
He just so happens to be stuck in a year where he is either injured or dealing with a even better Yokozuna
And
in Onosato.
the forcefulness of our tone isn't to do with your question, is more so to reassure our listeners who
Yeah.
have repeatedly accused us of disliking Hoshoryu or being unfavorable towards him in our analysis, how we actually feel. That's more so where we're coming from.
Yeah, we are hard on people because we expect more from us, and more importantly, because they expect more from themselves.
Hmm.
Right.
If Aonishki had lost to Kotozakura and Hoshoryu had won the title by default, so to speak, do you know who the most disappointed person in the entire arena would have been?
Asashoryu.
Second most then. It would have been Hoshoryu,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Hoshoryu himself would have felt that he did not deserve that title
Yeah.
if he had won it in such a manner. Like he probably would have felt downright like how enthusiastic could he have possibly been, to just like to not even get like that big old stack of envelopes in a way.
It's like in the middle of the Basho. I think it was day 7 or day 8. I can't even remember who he beat. I think it was Hoshoryu, where Wakamoto Haru pulled a full-on Henka. Um, and they took him to the interview room, and he's like, "Oh, you're a rank and file guy, and you beat a Yokozuna. Yay, come be interviewed." And he was so embarrassed to be there because he knew, come on, he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry." It's just, So yeah, Hoshoryu definitely would have felt a little kind of like twinge of regret. I agree, and my channel, everybody has their own opinion, and I welcome that, and we have a very spirited discussions, as I'm sure your comment sections do as well. And uh, there's a lot of people who don't feel like he deserved the promotion in the first place. I'm not one of those people. I feel like he is an absolutely worthy Yokozuna, and I look forward to him in 2026. You got to think now, maybe three each, him and Onosato, and somebody else might be able to work their way in. But that would be the smart prognostication, uh, based on just, I think that's the kind of rivalry they're going to have. I'm curious what you guys might think about our poor boy in the shadow, Kotozakura, who, is obviously very much overlooked these days, and did his best in the final few days, and got his Kachikoshi when some people thought he wouldn't, including me. And uh, does he have any, is he just going to be a journeyman in 2026 in the shadow of the other three guys?
It's a great
Ah,
question. Go ahead.
yeah, I can't say for sure because it's like every time I think, oh, he could finally, break through. He, lets us like he has not won on day 15 since all year. Yeah,
Yeah.
he went 0 and 5 on day 15 this year, and in all of those instances, it would have brought him up to, well, in the last four times, it would have gotten him to just 9 wins. I
Mm.
think he's just dealing with a combination of the stress of expectation because much like Oho, his grandfather is also a very respected Yokozuna.
True.
And his father is his own master, so that's got to be, even more frustrating on a daily basis. But I also think that it's just an injury thing. I mean, he's got he's got a very Takakeisho like body,
Mm.
just with the proper sumo height. And as we all saw last year, and how it basically wrecked Takakeisho at a young age.
Mm.
There's some legit fear that Kotozakura could be much closer to, to being in tie than to wearing the white rope. So,
Yeah.
I just hope that, 2026 he's able to, to just consistently maintain good form. I mean, he did beat a Yokozuna. Yeah, he beat Onosato. I mean, in that sort of unfair sort of way, but he is capable of still putting up big performances against,
And I think
the
that's what we
the
want.
best guys.
I don't expect him to necessarily win yusho in 2026, but I want him to be a thorn in the side. I want him to be competitive. I want him to not be, oh, he's got an easy match tomorrow because he's fighting Koto Zakura. I want it to be, oh, he's got Koto Zakura tomorrow. That could be a tough match. And so I hope he achieves that level and he starts getting double-digit wins on a regular basis, which is what I've always said Ozeki should be held up to that standard. And because, Aonishki is probably going to do what most Shin Ozeki do, which is not do well in January. There's going to be a lot of parties. He's got to hold the big fish. He's got to go in glad hand, a lot of supporters. And he's a young guy and he should enjoy it. And it only comes once. You never, well, I mean, I guess you could try to come back to Ozeki. It's almost never been done. And he should enjoy it, and usually it affects the sumo to the point where a 9-6 or a 10-5 would probably be acceptable for him in January, but maybe he'll get the cursed 11-4. And but yeah, I mean, and then we'll see for the rest of the year. Now, if there's no Onosato present because he has to sit out January, who knows? It could open the door for him. It could open the door for Hoshoryu, absolutely. And Kirishima looked really good at the end of this tournament. So he's probably going to jump up to Sekewake.
Yeah, it'll
Um,
probably be him and Takayasu at Sekiwake next
yeah,
tournament.
yeah. And God, I love hearing that Takayasu's doing. I mean, he looks so good in so many of his matches this tournament, even when he lost. For a guy like me who's been watching sumo for a long, long time, I'm definitely in that camp of just please, please, please let him win a yusho one time before he retires because he totally deserves it.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
could be the one.
yeah, this could be the one. You never
It
know.
could be. It
Well,
could
there
be.
is. I know we are. We do still have the rest of the Bonds cage to discuss, but there is one. There's one particular person who I felt really sort of entered himself into that discussion for having a monster 2026, and that is our Maegashira 5 East Yoshino Fuji. Uh,
Mm,
this guy in the second week was taking scalps or close to it left and right. I mean,
yeah,
he was the first guy to beat Onosato. He sort of derailed the momentum of Aonishki.
yeah.
He did have that kind of embarrassing loss to Hoshoryu. And then almost inexplicably lost to Kotozakura, while
Mm,
losing three of the last four. But that 9-6, like that first week where he went like 6-1, like this was a guy who a couple of months ago was in the yusho race. Then he has his first ever losing record in September, and then he
uh-huh.
just storms back and like he's going to be on the cusp of Sanyaku
And I mean, think
level.
about being a young wrestler and day nine through what was it, day 9, 10, 11, 12. You've got those four opponents in a row. I mean,
Mhm.
what a gauntlet. And he wins two of those matches. I mean, insane, right? And you know, stumbled out of the gate a little bit with a loss to Tamawashi, but he was on fire this tournament for most of it. And then on day seven, he's got a 6-1 record, and everyone's like, okay, okay, and but finishes 9-6, gets the show, very very well deserved, and absolutely I think he's on the radar. So he'll go up. Yeah, I guess you're at two maybe if they're generous, and he'll be fighting all the top ranked guys. You know. In January, all the Sekewake, all the Komusubi, and it'll be a good test for him to see how much he can maintain and try to get double-digit wins.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. We've also got we've got so many guys coming up in the Juryo ranks who are primed for their debut, like Fuji Seiyun, Asahakuryu, Hatsuyama. Those
Right.
guys are on the ascent. Fuji Ryoga will almost certainly be there in March. And like way down the Banzuke, you've got a couple of other rising stars like Kazuma, like Kaki. Like I don't, there's so much to look forward to in 2026, which is so weird to say because this was such an amazing year. We had
Uh,
two Yokozuna promotioned in the same year for the first time in decades. We
yeah.
had, we're ending the year with a brand new Ozeki and a first ever one from Ukraine. Two two first time yusho winners. Like,
Yeah.
my
It's the
goodness, like
first time in I think they said on the broadcast yesterday, it's the first time in 20 years that Fukuoka, which is usually the most sparsely attended tournament, sold out, not just sold out because it's done that a lot, sold out on the first day of tickets being available on sale. It sold out in a day, and usually Fukuoka doesn't do that. It's kind of off the beaten path Basho, and it's one of the reasons I love going down there and seeing it live like I did this time. And yeah, people are kind of coming around to sumo again in Japan. It's getting more and more popular. And having a Japanese Yokozuna certainly helps. And the depth of field of other guys that are really good, that were born here and you've got fan favorites like Ura, you've got the Tamawashi just setting records left and right at 41 years old. Oh my God, what an amazing guy he is. So the fans have a lot to cheer for when they buy their ticket these days. And, I think it's going to be another great year for sumo. The London thing was amazing. Great PR for the sport. They're going to go to Paris in 2026 in the summer. That's going to be amazing. So happy for these young guys who live lives of, you know, just constant practice, and there's no off season in sumo, and they live in these stables, and some of them live, four or five guys to a room, sleeping on, tatami futon, and to get to travel and go to some of the best cities in Europe. Just so happy that they get to have that experience, and have people really embrace them over there and be so happy to see them. And Yeah, I'm really optimistic about what 2026 will bring.
Well, I think that's going to put a bow on not just Kyushu 2025, but 2025 and sumo as a whole. Wanted to thank you, Jason, so much for being part of our show today. And please let the people know where they can hear and see your beautiful face.
Well, I want to thank you guys for having me on. It's so great to see so many English language sumo fans take to YouTube and other means of social media to spread the love of sumo. And as many people have said, they maybe got into it by finding my channel, but there's so much other stuff out there. So great to see you guys out here talking about sumo and getting people interested. And if you're interested in my channel, of course, Sumo Jason on YouTube. I don't have match coverage over there anymore, but I do a daily sumo summary show during the Basho. And the match coverage is now over on my Patreon channel, which again is Sumo Jason. $1 a month will get you 90 odd matches. The Patreon page is just another great community of people and pretty full coverage over there. Like I said, for about $1 a month. And yeah, we'll be back strong in 2026. So thank you so much for having me on.
And with that, we are going to bring this show to a close. Thank you, everybody who has watched us all year. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all a little bit sooner than you might expect. Take care, everyone.
Join the ranks, let's start the show. New to sumo, here we go.